Wondery Plus subscribers can binge all episodes of Class of '88 ad-free. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
Ladies, to show. To begin.
Back when I was a teenager, before hip-hop ruled the world, there was a DJ competition called the Battle for World Supremacy. Every year, the best DJs would cram into a hotel ballroom in Times Square to fight for the title of world champion. In 1986, my guy, DJ Jazzy Jeff, made it into the lineup. So we mobbed up there Philly style to cheer him on. He needed a little support.
It was in New York City, and I was going against New York DJs. We were treated so horribly because we weren't from New York. But in order to prove yourself, you almost felt like you had to go to New York.
In those days, there were no Billboard rap charts, no rap awards at the Grammys. Hip-hop was mostly happening underground. In 2 years, it would all be different. But for now, if you wanted to make a name for yourself in hip-hop, you had to go to New York. And that's why we were there, to try to put DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince on the map.
And it's all of these high-profile DJs. Dougie Fresh's DJ was in it, and, it was all of these big DJs. And that was definitely something I wasn't supposed to win.
In their eyes, Jeff was a long shot. At best, nobody from Philly had ever won the Battle for World Supremacy. Not to mention, this was Jeff's first official DJ competition.
I could tell it was kind of like, we want to get you out of the way. And they put me up against the world champion. And I was like, okay. And I walked up to him before we started to play. And I stuck my hand out to shake his hand. And he looked at me and walked away. And I was like, okay, if that's how you're going to take it, I'm going to make you remember me. I'm going to make you wish you shook my hand. There were 2 sets of turntables. Everybody on the right set of turntables lost. The needle was jumping all over the place. Everybody on the left set won. When he didn't shake my hand, I deliberately walked to the right turntables.
I'm watching all of this go down from the crowd, and I could not believe that Jeff would set up on those busted-ass turntables. So I'm yelling and waving from the crowd. I was like, dude, get to the other turntables. There was a woman sitting next to me, a music journalist named Tokyo Rose, and I was driving her crazy.
I covered the Battle for World Supremacy, and I got in late, and I ended up sitting with these kids from Philly. And one kid in particular was really loud and obnoxious. Tall, skinny kid.
Meanwhile, Jeff was paying me no mind at all because he had a plan.
I put my own needles on, which nobody else did. I put my own slip mats on so that it would slide. And I reached in my pocket and I had a small can of WD-40 and I sprayed it in the crossfader to make it loose, which was the worst thing you could ever do. I'm admitting that I put grease on an electrical contact, but that's what I would do to my mixers to make them slide so I could perform these scratches. And I put my headphones on and I tested it in my headphones.
Jeff was messing with his headphones and ignoring me, so that just made me yell even louder.
And I'm so annoyed because here I am late. I'm sitting in the same row with these guys. This guy's making a big scene.
Will was in the crowd, angry, trying to get me to go to the other turntables. And when I tested it and it didn't jump, I stuck my thumb up at him and he just smiled. Because it was important for me to go against all odds because this guy disrespected me.
All right. Okay, we need some silence. On the right, Jazzy Jeff. Jazzy Jeff's gonna start it off first.
The room quieted down. It was hot in there, a full house. Everybody turned to look at the 2 sets of turntables up front.
And then this kid with Cazals gets on the stage.
Cazelles are glasses with thick square rims, by the way.
And I could not believe what I saw.
Jazzy Jeff.
Just say run, run, CNC and mass, J. Run, DMC and Jam Master J.
And then Jeff did the John, the run, DMC and Jam Master stood, J.
There was this obnoxious kid. I was stuck with these Philly kids. But this guy, Jazzy Jeff, was absolutely the best DJ I'd ever seen.
Let's give a big round of applause. Let's go.
When it was all over, Jeff was crowned world champion. It was his first DJ battle, and to this day, it was his last. Now that's a flex. Come out of nowhere, destroy everybody, and then just never compete again. But while it was the end of his days as a battle DJ, when I think back on that day, I think of it as the beginning of our careers in music. I think of it as the beginning of DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
I got a big cup that says world champion. That is bragging rights. Like everybody on every radio station was just, oh, DJ Jazzy Jeff just won the battle for world supremacy. And we go to the radio station and they interview me and I got the cup. And it was just kind of like, Jeff is the best DJ in the world.
That battle was the day we earned the attention of the New York hip hop world. And it was also the day that we made it on the radar of Tokyo Rose. As it turned out, she wasn't only a music journalist. Her real name was Ann Carley, and she worked in A&R for Jive Records, a big label with major label distribution. Next thing you know, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince was signed with Jive, and Ann was our A&R rep. Together, we started working on our Jive debut, and they put it on the release schedule for early 1988. We didn't know it then, but it was a fateful decision, because as it turned out, 1988 wasn't just any year.
Music with no melody is rare, but right now, all around us is a music that is all beat, strong beat, and talk. It's rap music.
You know, 1988 was the year that I feel that hip hop was fighting for its legitimacy, and that was the year that we broke through.
Before 1988, a lot of people didn't think of hip hop as an art or even as a business. Roxanne Shante remembers they had another word for it, a fad.
It had an expiration date, like milk, like that's what they were saying, not realizing that this was going to become the genre of all genres, that this was going to be the music that sets the tone for every other genre of music.
Today, nobody thinks hip hop is just a passing trend. There isn't anything that hip hop doesn't touch, from fashion to film to sports. So what changed? How did hip hop come out of nowhere and end up everywhere? For me, the tipping point happens in one particular year, 1988. A year that changed the sound of rap, when legendary albums dropped and icons were born. In this series, I'm going to take you through that crazy year, who was there, what happened, and how we're still feeling its impact today. 1988 didn't just change hip hop. It altered the course of my life. And in January of that year, me and Jeff were just two dumb kids from Philly, barely out of high school. But by December, we were superstars.
I don't know if there was anybody in the United States that didn't know who DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince was, you know, after that year.
So this is also partly our story, how me and Jeff ended up with front row seats to hip hop history and how it changed us too. From Wondery and Audible, this is Class of '88. I'm Will Smith. Episode 1, The Battle for World Supremacy. When me and Jeff were kids messing with records in his mom's basement back in Philly, I had no idea where rap might take us. But I sure as hell didn't think it would be freezing our asses off in London. But in late 1987, that's where we were, holed up in a hotel room, the Holiday Inn Swiss Cottage, working on our new record for Jive. Jive was based in London and owned a studio there. We were under pressure to get the album done quickly, and it had to be great. If we messed it up, we'd probably never get a chance to make another one. It was a big question back then if rap could really make money for record companies. There had only been a few platinum records in all of rap history, so we were an experiment. Our careers, and possibly Ann Carly's career, all depended on what we came up with in that hotel room. But things got off to a rough start. Right before we left for London, Jeff broke his leg in a car accident. And so when we finally arrived at our hotel, Jeff was in a full-length cast from his hip to his ankle.
I probably should have gotten the cast off before we left to go make the album, but I didn't. So I was way past due of this cast coming off, to the point that the filling inside the cast started to irritate my kneecap, which is the reason Will kind of came up with this brilliant idea of, I can get your cast off.
I did think I could get it off.
And the craziest thing is, I believed anything you said. I believed that you could do anything that you said you could do.
My basic mindset is always yes. I don't see any value in saying no. If somebody says, Will, can you fly the space shuttle? Yes, of course. And to me, that was a big part of my energy with us going out into the world and making music. It's like, why can't we do it as big as anybody's ever done it? The answer is yes. Anyway, my plan was to saw off Jeff's cast with knives from the hotel's room service.
Then they bring up 24 butter knives, and he proceeds to saw, and he kind of gets it to the point that the cast starts to split.
So I had been sawing the cast from the top, which I guess, isn't medically recommended. And so the cast got stuck maybe halfway down Jeff's leg.
And he's saying shit to me like, what would MacGyver do? And I'm like, dude, stop playing like that, because at this point, I can't put pants on to go to the hospital to have them cut it off.
And I said, all right, Jeff, here's the deal. Just get in the tub. We'll soften it up, and with these last couple knives, we'll be able to get it off.
It started to shrink. So now it's choking my leg, and it really didn't help that through the entire process, he's laughing, and I'm freaking out. I'm wet in my underwear with a cast up to my ankle.
So JL came in, right? JL's looking, and it's like 30 butter knives all over the floor, and you're in the tub with your cast. It was like, what the fuck are y'all doing? He opened a beef stew can, and the jagged edge, he was using the jagged edge of the can top, and he went straight down where I was trying to saw vertically. He went horizontally,
and he got it off in 7 minutes.
Luckily, I didn't end up putting Jeff back in the hospital, which was helpful because we had a lot of music to deliver and fast. So we developed a routine.
Our lives for maybe 2 months was basically, I would sketch beat ideas together in the hotel. We would go to the studio, plug it up to the big speakers. Will would go and sit at a table and start writing, and we would chat back and forth with the lyrics. He would go in the booth. He would say the lyrics. I would add scratches, and it was almost like a typewriter. What's the next song?
It was a surreal experience for us. While we had made a record before, this was our first time in a studio that was like fancy. We didn't really understand the rules or what the process was supposed to be. And on the flip side, some of the people responsible for guiding us through it didn't, totally understand us either. They were used to making rock records or pop records, so it's no surprise there were a lot of misunderstandings, some that Jeff is still upset about today.
I don't get mad very often. I may not have known how to run the 2-inch in the SSL. I knew what I wanted. And I remember doing scratches. And the scratches I were doing was supposed to be laid slightly behind the beat for a feel.
Yep.
You know, for the feel, like to make it lazy, make it funky. Brian Chuck New was the engineer, and I laid it, and he said, that's not right. I said, that's the way I want it to sit. And he was like, I think you should do it again. And I said, but that's exactly how I want it to sit. And he pushed play and pushed record and said, oops, and erased it. And I jumped up and got in his face and was like, don't you ever do that again. Ouch. And I was never able to recreate those scratches the same way.
Oh. Damn, Jazz, you had a rough life.
I punched him in the face.
You listen, dog. You listen. Because that's the thing, Jeff, you need to talk about your emotions more. Because I didn't know none of this stuff. I didn't know nothing. I didn't know none of this stuff was happening.
I had so many nightmares about oops.
Fortunately, there was one person at the label who really did understand what we were going through and had our backs. Ann Carly. I mean, she was a visionary, one of the earliest executives to really take rap seriously. Besides us, she was responsible for Houdini and Boogie Down Productions, overseeing us all from Jive's field office in New York. When you think of a hip-hop mogul, Ann is probably not who first comes to mind.
I was born in Boston, Massachusetts. I was an East Asian Studies major with a concentration in 16th century Japanese theater.
Ann didn't come from hip hop, but she connected to it. Maybe because she had been overlooked by the music industry too.
For me, hip hop was special for a couple of reasons. I had tried at one point in my life to work for like a major label, and I had a bunch of interviews and stuff like that, but no one really saw beyond the fact that I was a tiny Asian American woman.
Maybe most importantly, hip-hop came to Ann at a time when she really needed it.
I went through a very big breakup, and it wasn't good. It was really ugly. I mean, he was abusive, and I was numb. And our artists listened to me, and they could tell that I loved the music and that I had ideas. And in being heard and seen by the artists, I got my voice back. I got the voice that had been crushed out of me. I got it back. And for that, I owe hip hop my life.
For Ann, hip hop was never about money. The music brought her purpose and acceptance. And we related to that for sure. From the beginning, all we ever wanted to do was make people feel good.
Like, I remember going to early block parties, and there was a DJ in Philly named Disco Doc, and he, you know, had these massive speakers. You couldn't see him, but all you heard was this massive sound and him talking on the mic. This is Disco Doc, and you were rocking to the legendary Disco Doc. And I'm like, I don't know who this mystery voice is, but I felt like he was the Pied Piper. Because he'd play a record and everybody danced, and he'd play another record and everybody danced, and he'd play another record and everybody danced. And it was just kind of like, you know, this is amazing. And that was the thing that got me into, I want to play music and make people happy.
Jive also wanted us to make people happy. A lot of people, if possible. After all, they were running a record business. And if me and Jeff wanted to stay in that business, we were going to need a hit. You know, so as we were working on the record, in the back of our minds, there was always the question, would people like this? Did we have a single? One track in particular stuck out to one of our engineers, a guy named P.Q. Harris.
P.Q. Harris said, this is a smash hit. And we were kind of like, yeah, this is a cool record, but we don't know if this is so much of a smash hit. And he was like, I'm telling you, this is a smash hit.
By February 1988, we had done all we could. We had survived Jeff's cast incident. We had worked relentlessly in the studio, pumping out track after track. So many songs, in fact, that our record actually ended up with the distinction of being rap's first double album. We decided to call it He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper. That's because people would always get us confused. We had fought the label over our first single, and we had filmed what we thought was a dope video. All that was left was to let people hear it. They would decide if we would climb to the next level or slink back to Philly to try to get into college or become accountants or something. and it set me on the path toward who I am today. In that way, rap music was the catalyst that created my dreams. I know I'm not alone. Millions of people all over the world have been touched by hip hop. And over the years, its power has only grown. Jazzy Jeff has a theory why.
People don't understand that hip hop isn't a musical form.
Right.
Hip hop is a lyrical form over any kind of music. That's
Absolutely.
why you got hip hop jazz, hip hop rock. And looking at it like that, all you got to do is add lyrics to whatever is popular, and hip hop will be
Exactly.
here forever.
And I think that is probably the thing that gives hip hop its greatest power. It can cross genre, it can cross time, and
Language.
It can cross language. I can't see how that doesn't manage to last until the
Forever.
end of time.
We couldn't articulate it like
Yeah.
that in 1986, 7, 88, but we felt it.
Yeah,
and I
for
think
sure.
that was one of the reasons why we defended
Yeah,
it.
for
When
sure.
someone would say, that it was a fad. They said rock and roll was a fad. It's whoever says all these things has been wrong a lot.
For years, we had been told that hip-hop was a passing trend. By the time 1988 rolled around, it was time for hip-hop to take its rightful place on the world stage, at the top of the charts and at the center of pop culture. And nobody was going to stop us. The battle for world supremacy was on.
Rap music is burning up the charts, but concert organizers hope it doesn't get too hot to keep under control.
It was a generational change.
There was a storm of rappers coming to the game.
I felt like Rakim was talking to me.
Next thing you know, boom, NWA.
It was so many groups that if that wasn't their first album, that was their breakthrough album.
They started to put their fists up in the air.
Everybody's eyes is on you.
That was the first time I cried over hip hop.
And we were scared. This is gonna kill everything that we've been doing.
That's all coming up on Class of 88. And first, we're going to bring you the story of a group from Hollis, Queens, who proved how big hip-hop could be. I'm talking about Run DMC.
It didn't get any bigger than Run DMC. Run DMC almost superseded hip-hop. They were superstars that just so happened to do hip-hop.
Follow Class of 88 on the Amazon Music app, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge all episodes ad-free right now by joining Amazon Music.
Class of 88 is a production of Audible Originals, Wondery, and Westbrook in partnership with Awfully Nice. The show is hosted by Will Smith. The show was executive produced by Mandy Gorenstein and Morgan Jones at Wondery, Carson Donnelly at Audible, Brad Haugen, Lucas Kaiser, Miguel Melendez, and Jacob Moncrief at Westbrook, Jesse Burton and Katie Hodges at Awfully Nice. Writing by Ross Carano, Sophia Clark, and Adam Azes. Fact-checking by Lauren Vespoli. Editing and audio mix by Nick Cipriano of Bang Audio Post. Original music composed by DJ Jazzy Jeff and Ambrose Akinmusari. Archival producing by Wyatt Stone. At Awfully Nice, the project manager is Kadi Kamakate. For Westbrook, the video producers are Jazz Davis and Jason Nguyen. The executive in charge of production is Dawn Manning. Production coordinators are Brittany Kelly and Imani Martin. Sound mixers for Westbrook are Joe Schreight, Calvin Bailiff, Jazz Davis, Aiden Tanner, and Jeff Blink. The production manager is Eleanor McKeag, and production assistants are Rachel Miller and Jesse Clayton. The SVP of Growth at Westbrook is Jesse Uram. For Wondery, the producer is Claire Chambers. The senior producer is Candice Manriquez-Wren, and the senior story editor is Phyllis Fletcher. The coordinating producer is Sarah Mathis. Acquisition and development by Shay Simpson at Wondery and Zach Ross at Audible. Director of Content Partnerships for Audible is Marlon Lawrence. The head of production at Audible Studios is Mike Charzik. The Chief Content Officer at Audible is Rachel Giaza. The Chief Content Officer at Wondery is Marshall Louie. Special thanks to John Asante. Sound recording copyright 2023 by Audible Originals, LLC.